Thursday, July 2nd, aroused at 3 a.m., move towards the battlefield where we arrive at 5:40 a.m. Isaac Taylor of the 1st Minnesota writes in his diary. Order from General read to us in which he says this is to be the great battle of the war, and that any soldier leaving the ranks without leave will be instantly put to death. The Union Army has fallen back to hold the high ground south of Gettysburg. Meade orders his line to run from Culp's Hill, around Cemetery Hill, down Cemetery Ridge to Little Round Top. Lee's Confederate line of 75,000 soldiers stretches nearly twice as long. It curves through the town and down Seminary Ridge. Lee plans to attack the left flank and then the right flank of the Union Army. Longstreet is unhappy with Lee's plan for assaults on the Union left. He spends much of the day getting his troops into position. Unhappy, too, is Union 3rd Corps Commander Dan Sickles. Though a courageous soldier, Dan Sickles has a sordid past. A corrupt congressman, he murdered his wife's lover. His political connections, not his military ability, gain him command of the 3rd Corps. The Union left flank is supposed to extend south on top of this rocky hill, Little Round Top. Sickles abandons his assigned position for one he thinks is stronger, moving out to the Peach Orchard and Devil's Den, leaving the high ground of Little Round Top undefended. At 4 p.m., ready at last, Longstreet sends in John Bell Hood's division. In front of his Texas Brigade, General Hood gives the command, "My brave Texans, forward and take those heights." We moved as fast as we could. Off went blankets, knapsacks, yelling and screaming, says Texan John West. Across an open field, over a marshy branch, over a stone fence, and up a very rugged and rocky hill. Yankee sharpshooters on the higher mountains. On we went, yelling, whooping. We rush on the batteries. "For God's sake, men," pleads the Union artillery commander in vain. "Don't let them take my guns away from me." Up and into these jumbled rocks of Devil's Den charged the Texans. Fighting as chaotic as these giant boulders. Vicious fighting. Rebels overwhelm the Yankees and capture the position. The rebel flag rises atop Devil's Den. An hour into the fighting, the rebels believe they have taken the Union flank. But rising before them is Little Round Top. Just before the rebels begin their attack, Union General Gouverneur Warren rides up here to Little Round Top. He is horrified. It is undefended. If the rebels take this rocky hill, they will control the battlefield. Warren sees thousands of rebels minutes away. Warren directs Colonel Strong Vincent's Union Brigade to defend the crest of Little Round Top. Moments later, rebels charge up this slope. Texan John West. A mass of rocks and boulders, mini bullets and grape shot were as thick as hail. The Texans push to within feet of this summit. Union Colonel Vincent jumps on a rock. A bullet strikes him down. The blue line is bending, breaking. Warren, His neck grazed by a bullet, desperately orders in more Union soldiers. Now, Irish immigrant Paddy O'Rourke leads his men against the Texans. On these rocks, O'Rourke is killed instantly. The Union line is barely holding. Around the crest of Little Round Top, Union Colonel Joshua Chamberlain and his 20th Maine hold the extreme left flank of the entire Union Army. His orders are to hold this ground at all costs. Racing towards him is the 15th Alabama, led by rebel Colonel William Oates. Minutes after the Maine men take their position, Oates and his men attack up these slopes. 5 times the Alabamians charge. 5 times they are driven back. Chamberlain's Union men run low on ammunition. Desperate, Chamberlain has 2 choices: retreat or charge. He cannot retreat. Chamberlain orders, "Bayonet!" The Maine men charge down at the rebels. "We ran like a herd of wild cattle," said rebel Oates. Just barely, the left flank of the Union Army has been saved. Longstreet's Confederates continue attacking the Union lines. Ready to fight is General William Barksdale of Mississippi, a fire-eating politician, a slave owner who vehemently supports the creation of the Confederacy. Barksdale's Mississippians aim for the middle of the Union line. Sickles' men at the Peach Orchard. Barksdale bellows, "Onward, brave Mississippians, for glory!" His brigade of 1,400 explodes out of the woods, their general leading across these fields on his white horse, his silver hair shining in the afternoon sun. The 2 lines crash together at this peach orchard. The Union lines explode like overripe fruit. Union lines are collapsing. General Sickles tries to gain cover behind this barn. A cannon shot hits him in the leg. He is carried from the field, his leg amputated. One of Hancock's staff says, "The loss of his leg is a great gain to us, whatever it may be to him." With Sickles gone, the Union Third Corps crumbles under the rebel onslaught. Barksdale's men race on, overrun the Union position. Sickles' collapse creates a massive gap in the Union line. If the rebels can reach this gap, they could break the Union line and win the battle. Barksdale's charge, now a mile long, surges forward. "Advance! Advance, brave Mississippians! One more charge and the day is ours!" Barksdale is hit. Right leg, left leg, and a cannon shot into his chest. Falls to the ground. A rebel offers him a drink. Water leaks out from the wound in the general's chest. "I am killed," he declares. "Tell my wife and children I died fighting at my post." Past the fallen general, rebel troops surge forward toward the gap in the Union line. Observing from Cemetery Ridge, Hancock watches an entire Confederate brigade, 1,400 men, pour in toward the massive gap in the Union line. He looks frantically for a way to plug this gap, to buy time to bring up reinforcements. He finds only a single regiment, the 1st Minnesota, 262 men. Among them, the brothers Isaac and Henry Taylor. Hancock rides up to the 1st Minnesota.
My God, are these all the troops we have here?
He points to the flags of the charging rebels, now only a few hundred yards away, and orders their colonel,
Do you see those colors? We'll capture them.
outnumbered 4 to 1, certain death. The colonel orders,
Fix bayonets. Forward.
262 Minnesota men charge into over 1,000 Confederates. They pour fire into the rebels. Stunned by the ferocity of the attack, the rebels hesitate. Their charge stalls, maybe 5 minutes, 10 at the most. But on this day, at this moment, at this place, it is enough. Union reinforcements fill the gap. The Union center holds. Of the 262 Minnesotans who make the charge, only 47 return unscathed. Isaac Taylor is not one of them.
Henry writes, I find my dear brother dead. A shell struck him on the top of his head and passed out through his back, cutting his belt in two. The poor fellow did not know what hit him.
He buries his brother, finds a board to mark the grave, and inscribes on it,
No useless coffin enclosed his breast, nor in sheet nor in shroud we bound him. But he lay like a warrior, taking his rest, with his shelter tent around him.
Henry then makes a last entry in his brother Isaac's diary.
The owner of this diary was killed by a shell about sunset, July 2nd, 1863. His face was toward the enemy.
The Union right flank sits on Culp's Hill, protecting the vital supply road at its base. On this hill is General George "Pop" Greene. 62 years old, Pop Greene is the oldest general fighting in the Union Army. Going against his superior commander's wishes, Pop Greene ordered his men to build entrenchments. General Meade, to strengthen the Union left flank, has pulled most of his troops from Culp's Hill, weakening the Union right flank. Sensing the Union weakness, the Confederate Second Corps attacks. Rebels, North Carolinians and Louisiana Tigers, storm up these slopes of Cemetery Hill. At these cannons, brutal hand-to-hand combat. At the same time, rebels cross Rock Creek and attack up the slopes of Culp's Hill. Pop Greene has only his 1,400 men to hold off 5,000 rebels. In darkness, from behind the entrenchments, Yankees fire down on the rebels. They drive the Confederates back, but are attacked again. Greene's men run low on ammunition, but they hold. The Union maintains control over both Cemetery and Culp's Hills. Night falls on the bloodiest day of the bloodiest battle in American history. Lee has lost 9,000 men. Meade, 11,000. But just barely the Union line remains intact. Says Meade, "It is all right now. It is all right now." The battlefield is dark. Fireflies glow. Lanterns of the stretcher-bearers bob back and forth across the landscape. Groans of thousands of dying men rise from across these fields. A young woman's bread waits to be baked, while her childhood friend holds a message for her in enemy lines. A Union general's body lies lifeless, still wearing the ring of his secret fiancée. A little dog hovers over her fallen comrades. A brother from Minnesota lies dead in a swampy swale a few yards from a Mississippian general. In this wheat field is a Confederate officer from Georgia. It was a moonlight night. One of our soldiers out between the lines began to sing. Considering the occasion and the audience, I've never heard music like that. In the still air and moonlight of that night, there were thousands of desperately wounded men lying on the ground within easy hearing of the singer, whose fine voice rang out like a flute and echoed up and down the valley. Both armies could hear the words. In the night, the Confederates' last fresh troops, Pickett's division, arrive on the field. They take up positions on Seminary Ridge. Among them is General Lewis Armistead, a Virginian, a career military man from a military family. Decades earlier, Armistead became best friends with a young Winfield Scott Hancock. When the Civil War started, Armistead fought for Virginia, Hancock for the Union. Before they parted, Armistead told Hancock that if he ever harms him, may God strike me dead. Now, barely 1 mile away, in the night, Hancock is in Meade's headquarters. They learn that Lee has only one fresh division left. Hancock turns to Meade, raises his fist and shouts, "General, we have got them nicked." Meade and his generals agree unanimously. They will stay at Gettysburg and await Lee's attack. Meade expects Lee to hit the Union center. He is sure General Lee will not back down from this fight. Meade telegraphs President Lincoln, "The enemy attacked me about 4 p.m. this day, and after one of the severest contests of the war, was repulsed at all points. I shall remain in my present position tomorrow." Abraham Lincoln will wait to see what will happen on July 3rd, one day before the nation celebrates its 87th birthday.
Giddy up, Demo.